Keanu Reeves sees a pregnant woman working hard at a gas station, and her actions are very shocking. Keanu Reeves had always preferred driving himself around when he had the time. That night, after a long day on set, he stopped at a small gas station on the outskirts of town to grab a snack and refuel. The place was nearly empty, lit only by flickering fluorescent lights, and the only sound was the hum of the coolers inside. As he stepped inside, his eyes landed on the cashier, a young woman, visibly pregnant, moving quickly behind the counter. She scanned items for a trucker, restocked candy bars and wiped down the counter between customers, all without pausing to catch her breath. Keanu grabbed a bottle of water and some granola bars, walking up to the counter as the trucker left. "Long night?" he asked as she rang up his items. She exhaled a tired laugh. "Like every night." His gaze flickered to the heavy boxes of soda she had stacked earlier. "You do all this by yourself?" She shrugged. "Manager doesn't want to pay for extra staff, so yeah, I need the money so I don't complain." Keanu frowned. "You shouldn't be lifting those boxes." She smirked and leaned on the counter. "Tell that to my landlord." Before he could respond, a loud noise erupted outside. A car sped into the parking lot, tires screeching. Two masked men jumped out, one holding a crowbar, the other reaching into his hoodie. Keanu's instincts kicked in, but before he could react, the pregnant woman did something shocking. She reached under the counter, grabbed a metal baton, and marched straight toward the door. "Absolutely not," she said, her voice sharp. The men hesitated. "Lady, just hand over the cash." She didn't wait. With a swift, practiced motion, she struck the crowbar out of the first man's hand and spun the baton, jabbing it into his gut. He doubled over, gasping. The second man, stunned, pulled a knife, but she didn't flinch. She kicked a nearby mop bucket straight into his legs, sending him sprawling. In seconds, both men were on the ground, groaning. Keanu stared, mouth slightly open. That was unexpected. The woman cracked her neck and shrugged. Worked security before this. She grabbed her phone and dialed 911. The police arrived within minutes, hauling the would-be robbers away. One of the officers looked at her with a mix of amusement and respect. "You ever think about joining the force?" She laughed. "Not with a baby on the way." Keanu stepped forward, still impressed. "You shouldn't be working a job like this." She sighed. "I know, but life doesn't wait for you to have better options." Keanu thought for a moment, then pulled out his phone. "Maybe I can change that." A week later, the gas station had a new employee, and she had a new job. One that didn't involve night shifts, heavy lifting, or fighting off robbers. As she settled into her new role, she thought about the quiet stranger who had stopped in that night, and how, with just one act of kindness, everything had changed. Months passed, and the woman's life transformed in ways she never expected. Thanks to Keanu's connections, she had secured a stable job as a security consultant for a private firm. It was a position that allowed her to work from home most days, providing her the financial stability she had desperately needed. The stress of long nights at the gas station was gone, and she could finally focus on preparing for her baby's arrival. One evening, she sat by the window of her small but comfortable apartment, gently rubbing her belly as she thought about how one chance encounter had changed everything. She had always believed that hard work was the only way forward, but she never imagined that kindness, especially from a complete stranger, could open doors she didn't even know existed. As she reflected on this, her phone buzzed. A message popped up from an unknown number. "Hey, it's Keanu. Just checking in. How's everything?" She smiled, her fingers hovering over the screen before she replied, "Better than I ever imagined. Thank you." A few seconds later, another message appeared. "You did that yourself. I just helped a little." She let out a small laugh, shaking her head. Keanu Reeves, the humble Hollywood superstar, refusing to take credit for changing someone's life. As she set her phone down, she thought about his words from that night. "When life gets better, if you ever see someone struggling, pass it on." She didn't know how or when, but she knew she would, because kindness, like strength, wasn't meant to be kept, it was meant to be shared. Years passed, and life had settled into something she once only dreamed of. Her daughter, now a bright and curious little girl, was growing up in a home filled with love and security. No longer weighed down by exhausting night shifts or financial struggles, The woman had built a life where she could focus on being the mother she always wanted to be. One afternoon, as she walked through a busy downtown street, holding her daughter's hand, she noticed a young man sitting on the sidewalk. His clothes were worn, his face tired, and his hands clutched a tattered backpack. People passed by without a second glance, but something in his expression, exhaustion mixed with quiet determination, made her stop. She knelt beside him, her daughter watching curiously. "Rough day?" she asked. The man hesitated before nodding. "Yeah, just trying to find my next meal." She reached into her bag and pulled out a few bills, but before handing them over, she looked him in the eye. "This isn't just money, it's a chance." He looked confused, but she smiled. "Years ago someone gave me a chance when I needed it the most, and now I'm passing it on." Tears welled in his eyes as he accepted the money, his voice shaking. "I won't waste it." She believed him. As she stood, her daughter tugged at her sleeve. "Mama, why did you help him?" She smiled down at her little girl. "Because kindness always comes back around." As they walked away, she felt the warmth of that truth settle in her heart. Somewhere out there, Keanu Reeves had no idea how deeply his simple act of kindness had rippled through the world. And maybe, just maybe, one day this young man would do the same for someone else.